Welcome to this tutorial for my easy arrangement of Amazing Grace. In this tutorial, I'm going to give you some tips for how to read this and learn it quickly, and then also perhaps some interpretive tips, some thoughts on how to perform it. So the arrangement itself is held together by an introduction, a interlude here before the second verse, and I guess that's it. It kind of makes a reappearance at the end, but there are little motives that I borrowed from the melody. That dotted quarter note with 3/8 notes that are rocking back and forth between a third is borrowed from the melody. So I borrowed that little motive, both the intervals and the rhythms. Just helps to glue it together so you're not just playing the part that you sing. It kind of gives some musical interest. The biggest thing I want to draw your attention to is introduced in your left hand right at the beginning. And that is that the chords you're going to find yourself playing in this arrangement may not be ones you're used to, especially if, for example, you're just starting out playing the piano. Maybe you've been taking piano lessons for a year or two, and you're just arriving at this level. Probably most of the chords you've played have been simple triads, basic things that you see a lot of and that are very harmonious. In my case, I'm asking you to play this, which by itself sounds very dissonant, but in context is very beautiful. Now, to help with that, I've tried to throw a bone in that I try to keep as many common notes in between measures, or from measure to measure, or from movement to movement in your left hand. So you'll notice at the very beginning, the top notes in your left hand never change. It's a C sharp D, and the only note that changes is the bottom note, and it only changes by steps. And then when you get to the beginning of the song, you'll notice that your left hand plays a familiar fifth interval, D and A. The measure after that doesn't change. It's still a D and A, except that you just add a C sharp on the bottom. The measure after that, you have the top note staying the same while the bottom note moves, and the bottom note stays the same while the top note moves. So you always have these like common notes to help you navigate and to make it easier to play. In my experience with pianists, especially ones who are just starting out, is that you feel the need to kind of reinvent and try to reread at each measure what the notes are. And as you get, playing the piano is especially reading music is really an experience. As you get more experience, you learn patterns and formulas and visuals, and you learn to just look at a set of notes and know exactly what the intervals are and things like that, just by virtue of identifying the look of it. I don't know if I'm explaining this very well. But one of the things that helps with that is to not sort of clear your brain, clear the cache, if you want to use a technical term. Not clear your browser cache in between each measure, but to remember what had gone before and to see what those common notes are. So as you get to measure 2, you don't lose the memory of what you had played before, and then you immediately see that, oh, the top notes are the same, it's just the bottom note moving. I don't know if I've explained that clearly, but that was my thinking, and I think that will help you, especially if you practice your left hand by itself with that in mind, that there are common notes. Maybe put yourself some fingering in there. Anyway, it's not as hard, is what I'm trying to say, as maybe it might look. The same goes for the arpeggios. I tried to keep repeated notes. You're not moving all up and down, and every single note is different. They're patterns that just keep getting repeated. And then the biggest thing I'd say as far as interpretation goes is don't rush this. It's very meditative, and in that regard, even if you are an expert, super advanced pianist, you might find that this arrangement works really well in, say, a communion time, or maybe a funeral or something like that, where it's a quieter, prayerful kind of time, or reflective time, and you just want to have a very simple arrangement that doesn't draw attention to itself, but just kind of sets it out there for people to think about. So you might find, even if you're an advanced pianist, that it is worth your performing in certain contexts. All right, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next tutorial.